The 2ZR swap on my Yaris is underway, but the biggest thing with an engine swap is where are you gonna get that engine that you're actually gonna use? I've been trying to hunt down a 1.8 liter 2ZR for this Toyota Yaris, and the problem is I've found a bunch, but they're all wildly different prices. I've seen engines for this anywhere from $600 to $2,200. So what is the difference? They are all the same engine, right? Well, today I'm gonna tell you what makes all those engines different prices, what you should be looking for, and what's worth it and what's not. I'm also going to clean up the engine bay today, which will make great use of AMSOIL's engine degreaser. I'm able to clean up my car, but I'm not able to keep my AMSOIL shirt clean. I spilled lunch on it. Anyway. Okay, the reason I'm going with a 2ZR is because it actually came in this chassis in different markets, but only a specific 2ZR, and that's the first part of this, is making sure that you're actually getting the right engine. There are multiple versions of the 1.8 liter 2ZR, the 2ZR FE, the 2ZR FAE, the 2ZR FXE. The FXE is the one that came in hybrids like the Lexus CT200H. It has higher compression pistons, but it has completely different timing for the valve train, and I haven't confirmed if any of the mounting stuff has changed. Same with the FAE. You might get lucky with whatever application you're doing, but you might get all the way through the install and find out that one bolt hole is missing for your motor mount, and either you've got to fabricate something or go back to a different engine. This all depends on the level of skill that you're going into this with. If you have fabrication skills and you know you're going to be making a bunch of parts, you can kind of go with whatever engine you need. But the 2ZR FE is a direct swap into this chassis, so that's why I'm looking for something specific. Even just looking at that though, I've found 15 different motors nearby, and they range from 25,000 miles to 123,000 miles, and the price ranges from $673 to $2,100. So the assumption would be that the cheapest option is going into a junkyard and just pulling an engine, and the most expensive one would be like a remanufactured one. But it hasn't actually broken down that way. Yes, at my local pick-apart, going in and pulling an engine should cost you $673. But if you go for an already pulled engine from the same place, they're gonna charge you about $1,400. A remanufactured engine from Power Engines is only $1,900. So for a $500 difference between a completely unknown engine and a remanufactured one, that's not that big of a deal. But what most people do in this situation, especially with Japanese cars, is they look for a JDM engine. JDM engines are engines that came in the Japanese domestic market, and the way emissions regulations and roadworthiness works in Japan, vehicles are pulled off the road much earlier than they are in the US. The upshot of that is that plenty of vehicles are going to the wreckers with 30, 40, 50,000 miles on them. JDM motors can be found between 20 and 60,000 miles all day long for pretty much any application that you're looking for. And for the 2ZR, I've got a couple local, 25,000 miles, 30,000 miles, 40,000 miles, 50,000 miles, and 60,000 miles. Knowing what this engine can take, that's basically nothing. And the price difference isn't that drastic. They all float around the $1,500 mark. The problems that come from JDM engines depend on your application. For instance, if the engine in your daily driver died, you can get a JDM motor, but it's probably only good as a short block since all the accessories and wiring and even sometimes the intake and exhaust are different. Emission standards are different in Japan, so things like EGR and EVAP are probably not going to exist on a JDM motor. That's okay if you can swap over all the other parts from your existing motor, but just bear in mind that it means you're going to be reusing a lot of parts. Swapping that stuff over takes a lot of time, and if you're upgrading a motor, you might not actually have the parts that fit. For race and off-road applications, you are probably going to be able to get around this. Depends on what kind of tuning and what ECU you're using, whether it's going to feel like it needs that EGR connection, or whether it's a setup that's going to work without it. no matter where you get your engine from, you probably shouldn't throw it in as is. You're gonna want to reseal the thing at least. I got a list here of stuff that I wanna get for the engine and the car as a whole. These little things add up, but it's gonna be a little bit cheaper because of my membership to AEG. So this list totals out to $263. Let's see how much cheaper we can get. AEG members get discounts at certain stores just like an auto shop would, but it's for enthusiasts, you know, people who like working on their own cars. I got to hang out with the founders while I was in Alabama, and if you want to join, go to aegmembers.com and use the discount code in the description. It makes all the right sounds. So good. I got a few of the parts. Some of the things had to be special ordered, but overall I saved nearly $60. So every little bit helps. Let's get back to some engines. Look, long story short is that picking the right engine is super important, and there are ways to get the wrong one. So let's hope I didn't. I found a junkyard not too far from me with a 2012 Scion XD with the engine still in it, and they were able to pull it for me the same day. Since my wiring harness, ECU, and motor mounts all come from the XD as well, this motor shouldn't have any surprises. When you buy a used engine, you want to check all around it to make sure it wasn't leaking when it was pulled. There we go, come on. Yeah, all good. Right here is a 2ZR FE out of a 2012 Scion XD. I was able to find a place where I could get the VIN of the actual vehicle that this came out of, so I could look up the Carfax. It has 80-something thousand miles. The vehicle was in no accidents, and the engine itself looks really, really clean. I paid a little bit more than I wanted to, but I was spending too much time trying to shop around for the best deal, and really, I just needed the engine. So the engine is here. That means we're ready to start the installation, right? Well, not quite. What I don't have here is an alternator or a starter, so I guess the first step is going to be seeing if the 1NZ ones are the same part number and if they fit. As far as the alternator goes, the actual electrical load on this engine is going to be less than normal because I'm not running AC. I also know that the water pump is usually one of the first things to go bad on this engine, so we're gonna change this out. It's at like 80,000 miles, might as well do it. That's all the stock parts. We still need to refresh this engine, and we still need to get a hold of the not so stock parts, which I'll show you hopefully before the end of this year. I really wanna get this car on the road again before 2025.